Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. And we're back after Thanksgiving weekend. We hope everybody had a good gobble gobble. Hope you didn't eat too much. And if you ate too much, hopefully you got out on the track or the treadmill or your Peloton and worked it out just a little bit. Want to give some shout outs to some people. Want to give a shout out to Felicia Chappelle for having us, my mother, myself, invited over for the festivities. The Chappelle family in general. Also, want to make sure I give a very big shout out and well wishes to Brother Johnny Boyd, who is the uncle of Imam Tyree Boyd. Fell on some illness, very serious illness. So we're gonna send du'as your way. Also, I want to give some du'as out to my Aunt Shirley. Hope that you are feeling better. Anybody else that's not feeling well, you can go to Permissible Laughter at gmail.com and let us know, and we'll make sure we get this up. We got a lot of people who had great weekends, but some people are ill. And I want to also give a shout out to Brother Jamal from Masjid Muhammad, who he had his janazah on Saturday, and all the brothers that came out to give him his proper due, his flowers. We really, really appreciate that. And, brothers and sisters, this is it seems like we're back. I'm not going to say things that are redundant, but it seems like we're back a little bit to where we were at this point last year. As many as you know, the thing that's jumped out, the news that has jumped out is Omicron, the new virus, the new version of COVID-19. I don't know, COVID-19 plus. I don't know what it is. And what is interesting, brothers and sisters, is there has been a rush to judgment on a couple of levels. Number one, on what is exactly this variant bringing to us in terms of illness, in terms of long-term effect of the economy and things like that. That's number one. Then number two is, where are we in the context of what have we learned in the medical community, in the science community about dealing with these variants, if you will? Sister Satana pointed out before the show as we were getting ready that, this is the sixth wave in terms of COVID variants. And so my question begins and ends. It's like, where are we in looking at how we manage these things? Because there's a lot of things that are not being said. We have, when I say rush to judgments, we have countries that are barring people coming in from South Africa, African nations, and things like that. And it's a little bit of a rush to judgment. And I want to throw this out to my brother, Johnny L. Thomas, who sent out a wonderful article, an excellent article about the rush to judgment with people who are barring people from flying in from Africa. And we're going to get to that. But I want to know, brothers and sisters, here we are. We are well into the pandemic. And one thing about the pandemic is, the viruses, they mutate. But the thing that we're not really talking about is how do our behaviors mutate? We've had things in the news that they seem tragic, but if you peel back some of the layers, it's even more scary because they happen in a space, brothers and sisters, where we really, really need to be diligent about what's going on with the virus, if you will. The virus has not gone. We are in a stage now where we're giving booster shots and things like that, which implements the idea that, the vaccine is not a cure. I've said that before. Many of you already know that. But it is that people have taken this layer, if you will, of not just vaccines, but fatigue. And are we as a country responding to fatigue? Meaning that we have a set game plan, a set playlist for panic anytime we get one of these viruses. I mean, I spent a little bit of time trying to look up, of course, what is the difference between this virus and the Delta virus. And then there are some stark differences about this virus. And, this virus, people talked about fatigue for about 2 days. People talked about, that fatigue and things like that, feeling achy. I don't know about you. That sounds like the flu, just my opinion. But when we're talking about the Delta virus, the thing that made it dangerous, brothers and sisters, is you were losing functionality of senses. Your taste, your smell, oxygen levels dropping to dangerous lows. And it's a big difference. It's a huge difference, brothers and sisters. Even though it may be, this particular virus may be more transmissible, I have to ask the questions like, are we lending to the hype, if you will? And is that lending to the hype in some regards, holding us back from really having an effective response. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Welcome back from Thanksgiving, brothers and sisters. This is Preacher Moss, the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Let's get it. Hey, yo, and we're back, and I want to give a big shout out to Ben's Chili Bowl, my home space. Big shout out to Sophia Rob and Ben Abdul Haq, who took your brother out to Ben's Chili Bowl after the janaza. I appreciate it. And don't sleep on Ben's Chili Bowl. That veggie chili and that veggie sandwich is amazing. Okay. So we have a big topic to talk about today. The topic or the subject is, of course, old vaccine, new virus. Again, that's old vaccine, new virus. I saw something from a microbiologist who began to talk about the necessity to break bad habits in the middle of a pandemic. The man talked about the fact that you must know that pandemics affect certain things like sedentary behavior, that you have to look at what you eat, that there are things, precautions, if you will, that you can take to kind of, that's not saying you won't get the virus, but if you get it, it's not to the point where it's debilitating or it could kill you. You know, this was what we had, brothers and sisters, you know, going on 2 years. And the thing that we have to look at is the fact that has the medical community, has the science really caught up or really understood what happened with COVID? Now, part of COVID is you leave the virus, it is what it is. And I had to learn which was a virus and which was a bacteria. COVID was a virus, and it told me everything about a virus, and I understood that, brothers and sisters. But what I didn't understand, brothers and sisters, was the reaction, if you will, to something that was clearly deadly. Clearly could cause harm, clearly could cause long-term health issues amongst people. In the lackadaisical approach, now we have what seems to be on the precipice of a new virus, Omicron, that to me, brothers and sisters, in some regard might be an overreach. Now we're going to get to it. Let me bring the people on the Shout Out Show. I haven't seen them since last Wednesday. God bless them. We'll give a shout out to Sister Reed. How you doing, Sister Reed? We hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope that turkey worked out for you. Peace and blessings to you, Derek. Juwan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope you saved me some turkey. I know you didn't. All right, next up. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Altar Rashid, better known as Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Our Canadian ambassador to the show. Yes, brother. You know what? I had an excellent Thanksgiving. I got to hang out with family and friends and family. You know, I just had the benefit to be able to take my mom out, you know, just get her out of the house. I saw the Chappelle documentary, Untitled. I want to suggest everybody go check it out if you get a chance, if it ever comes back out. Again, they're touring it. Hopefully it'll wind up on one of these streaming services. Excellent film. I think you will like it. Particularly shout out to Ms. Suleiman, who in my opinion, with his spoken word poem, he stole the show. Okay. All right, Altaf, good to see you. What's going on? My main man, I haven't heard from you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. How you doing? This is my main man. Hey man, how is? I hope your business is doing well. You know, I know you are. I wrote some scripts for you. I hope everything's going well with you and your family, man. I appreciate you tuning into the show. You probably think I didn't even remember you. Of course I remember you, man. I hope the business is thriving, and we need to talk, man. So let's catch up. Bilal Salahuddin, I'm assuming that you are representing yourself and Sister Sonia Salahuddin. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. I hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Again, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you got your gobble on, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna shout today. What's going on, Sister Salim? It's good to see you, my fellow teacher. I'm a former teacher. This sister is a current teacher, a beautiful soul and beautiful educator. I saw your father this weekend at Juma. He's doing well. He looks good. Looks good. Please give a shout out to your mother and shout out to you and your family. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Next up. And we got Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT, my little brother. Hey, Jay, that article that you sent me on this virus, great article. I'm going to, with your permission, if you don't mind, I'm going to make sure I get it out to people on the next show because it asks a lot of questions. You know, we are very inquisitive people, and especially when it comes to health, because when it comes to health, your information is a little bit limited. And I remember being a kid, we had all these medical dictionaries, and I used to look up what I thought I had. And it's interesting because the more you look up, the more stuff you think you have. But thank you so much. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, JT. Appreciate you for that article. Next up. Alhamdulillah. All right, brother. You know I remember you, man. Next up. And we got Sister Satana on the ones and twos working the production. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Satana, thank you so much for making all of this possible, running everything on Thanksgiving. I appreciate you. I make sure, brothers and sisters, if I don't give flowers to Sister Satana, and all of you, please put it in the box saying you didn't holler me out, bro, because I don't want to be slipping on my job. I appreciate you, Sister Satana. So let's get to our topic today. Old vaccine, new virus. Old vaccine, new virus. Now, here's the thing that I want everybody to pay attention to. People, hear me now, people have been sick since the beginning of time. People have been sick since the beginning of time. No one is going to live forever. As my father said, nobody's going to stay on this side of the dirt. Or you say ain't nobody get out here alive. That is true, brothers and sisters. But the idea or the advent of medicine is to make sure that you have a particular quality of life. Hear what I'm saying? You have a particular quality of life. COVID was interesting because for one of the few times in present history where we think we have all these medical technology, technological advantages, and all this research and stuff, you got hit with something in the teeth that essentially made all of the research kind of irrelevant, at least for a while, where you had to look at the environment, you had to look at the symptoms, and you had to piece together what it is that you are effectively going to give to the people. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again because I don't want to be two-faced about it. The U.S. response to COVID was atrocious. If you look at other countries, other developed countries, they did not have the numbers of COVID deaths that we had. They did not have the amount of infections that we had. Brothers and sisters, there were people who managed COVID. In fact, Wuhan had less than 40,000 people die from COVID, and this is where it originated. Why? Because it had a different reaction to infectious disease. And that infectious disease example is that they shut down the whole thing of Wuhan. Whatever was in that district, they shut it down. They made sure that they had people to mitigate where they went, how long, and they had a thing where you had to walk through places. You had to show almost like a scan card that let people know that you were okay. Green meaning go, red meaning you can't go anywhere. And they stuck to it, brothers and sisters. They stuck to it. Now, this could be attributed to the communist system, or it could be attributed to the fact that people had a basic understanding how you respond to this type of crisis. Here in the United States, I've always been leery about how they would respond to health crises. Literally because there's always been a disparity in terms of healthcare. Who gets what, how much, when, how much. This has always been an issue. So it wasn't new to me, or it didn't surprise me when we had this COVID response and the reaction was bad. And I will throw this in here. I caught COVID when people actually thought it was the flu. Now, I tend to believe myself to be a fairly healthy individual. In fact, the day that I went down with COVID, I actually ran about 5 miles. In that issue of thinking it was the flu, I was thinking this is the worst flu I've ever had. And this is a person who's claiming me not being, braggadocious, but I think I'm in decent shape. I started to immediately think about the elderly. The elderly, those who have long-term health issues. That's in my family, and you're beginning to understand that these things do have a connection. They have a relationship. So as I began to understand the response to COVID, brothers and sisters, it becomes more and more frustrating. What we had was a situation where people just weren't honest. Where the science was there, but the politics overruled the science. This is different, and I do agree with President Biden on this. He said, yes, this new variant is a cause for concern, but it's not a cause for panic. The problem with COVID is that people panicked. And they panicked for the wrong reasons. They didn't panic because there was a pandemic that was upon us. There were all these different pockets of self-interest that we can call them, the economy, the election, and things like that. And it led to a failed response. The article that Brother JT sent me was interesting because it put in juxtaposition that the response of a lot of countries, and especially including the United States, the response was to ban all these flights. Anybody coming from these particular African countries can't come in now. So they started in the UK and the EU and the United States with banning. And the truth of the matter is, this virus has been seen in other countries. Doing more research, the person that actually identified this virus said that we had a period where we didn't have really any COVID for about, I think, 6 to 8 weeks. They didn't have people coming in for COVID. And then people started coming in saying, I'm experiencing fatigue and flu-like symptoms and things like that, and aches and pains. And this person said, these symptoms are different than COVID. And they said, let's take a look at it. See, the thing about South Africa, and I was talking about this earlier this morning with my pops, is the fact that South Africa, brothers and sisters, that they're actually talking about this may be a godsend for the rest of the world. It literally may be a godsend for the rest of the world. Let me tell you why. The reason I'm saying this is because they have mounds and mounds and mounds of research. They are one of the most developed research bodies in the world. They were the ones who came up with leading research about HIV, AIDS, all this type of stuff. So they have a lot of experience dealing with things that are called pandemics. Even more so, brothers and sisters, being out in the mainstream, their research seems to be a lot more directed in terms of focusing in on not just the symptoms, but also what are the long-term ramifications. What I don't like a lot of times is when we just talk about COVID, we don't build out what the solution would be. Not the cure, the solution, the things that we can work on. Because right now, when you're talking, people are traveling, brothers and sisters, and this is the weird juxtaposition nobody wants to talk about. People are still traveling. People still trying to live their lives, trying to live their best lives. YOLO, that's what we're hearing right now. But in the city of Houston, they had a concert where 8 people were killed, which was horrible. But the underlying thing, they were killed, and there was 8 people out of 50,000 people, brothers and sisters. You cannot possibly have social distancing with 50,000 people. If you socially distance those people, it'd probably be from here to the moon and back, and still you're dealing with about 3 feet short. My point is, and this is something I want to be very clear about saying, the arrogance, if you will, the arrogance of developed countries and how they treated who they saw as undeveloped countries has now flip-flopped. Because these countries, whether you remember or not, when we had massive outbreaks of COVID, Africa was relatively low in terms of COVID outbreak. So that this person has identified what could be the next wave, if you will, as Satanas says, the 6th wave, Omicron, I think there is an overreaction. I think, brothers and sisters, that it's not as severe as people are making it out to be. But the powers that be, the same ones that dealt with COVID back in the day at the administrative level and the political level, are now seeing another chance to, in some regards, change the narrative. The stock market dropped 900 points. 900 points. On an idea that this COVID, of which they had literally no information, it's so fresh, it's so new, they have very little information. It's all hypothetical. But on a hypothetical, the market dropped 900 points. That you're talking about 2% in some regards. Who, brothers and sisters, in your life, in your own personal life, did you stop going to work? Did you quit your job? Did you put a mattress beside your front door to make sure that this new variant couldn't get in? Of course you didn't. But it seems to me that those in leadership have, I want to say, engaged us, for lack of a better word, in an economy of fear. We now have a situation of how people, COVID, brothers and sisters, turned an election. And I think that the scare tactics around not knowing all the health information, not knowing precautions, in some regards, moving away from the things that actually made sense. I could take everything we talk about with COVID, it'd be the same with the flu. If somebody has the flu, guess what you don't do? You don't hang out with people who have the flu. 6 feet, 2 miles, 3 miles. I'm not hanging out with you till you're better. Wash your hands. Yes, that's a basic thing. Remember they say wash your hands on your mother? That was the flu, brothers and sisters. Still and yet, we have a situation scenario whereby people seem to be rediscovering the wrong things. We're rediscovering the fear. We're living in a space where the economy is trauma and people are not asking questions. Now, I'm asking questions, and the reason I'm asking questions is because, I saw the real aspects of COVID up front. I know people who passed away from COVID. Good friends, dear friends, family members. I know that. I even feel as though there's some people who passed away from other things, but I would gander to say that COVID may be a part of it because no one has any information about the long-term effect of it. And that we have these variants, brothers and sisters, don't be fooled. You have an entire medical community, research community that knows all of these variants. How do you think they can pick them up in different places in South America, in Great Britain, in Africa, in South Africa, in Johannesburg? The reason is there's an economy to this thing. And that economy, brothers and sisters, is tied to the medical profession. And that medical profession is tied into pharmaceuticals. Nobody is talking about pharmaceuticals right now, which is a whole different economy. It's the pill economy. We just had the show, the United States of Overdosed. Well, this would be the United States of Overmedicated. You have people still arguing left and right about vaccinations, non-vaccinations. Now, to me, brothers and sisters, that's your own personal choice. But put it in the purview of making it a political decision, we now have what's basically a certain level of inertia. We're not moving forward, we're not moving backwards. So here we have another virus is coming through. And my fear, brothers and sisters, is not the virus. My fear, brothers and sisters, is the reaction to the virus. And even more specifically, a poor reaction to the virus. Where we stop asking questions. Where we trust our fears and we trust the fears of other people. Where we find ourselves, just like stop the lie, stop the vaccinations. Brothers and sisters, and if anybody does the homework on vaccination, I want everybody to know this. There's a huge community of anti-vaxxers. And these people go all the way back to they didn't want kids to get MMRs, mumps, measles, and rubella. They didn't want to do that. They argued about it. And some of them had personal reasons. Some of their children were affected by it. Some of them felt like, it was autism in these medications and things like that. That's the science, but it's a small sampling, brothers and sisters. And don't get me wrong, I'm definitely absolutely heartfelt compassion towards those people, parents whose children were affected and had autism and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, that sample size doesn't make it a blanket for everybody. It doesn't make it. It doesn't make it, for lack of a better word, it's not a check you can write for the whole problem. And we, brothers and sisters, have to be especially astute in asking questions. What do we have to be astute about? I'm going to say this, and I won't go too long, but I'm going to say this. Check your finances. Check your finances this time. Because when COVID came, we couldn't do anything. But now you have a new virus. Check your finances. Because bad decisions did something worse than what COVID did. It crashed people's economies. It closed businesses. Let me tell you something. When a business closes, another business benefits. Let me say it again. When a business closes, another business benefits. When schools close, brothers and sisters, there's a beneficiary to that. People are still, and the beneficiary is not the teachers, not the children. It's a talking point for a lot of politicians as to, the school system is, you didn't teach, you didn't even go to the schools. We're giving platforms to people who don't walk those shoes. They don't walk that walk, so they shouldn't be able to talk that talk. Me, I'm not a doctor. I'm a comedian. I'm a philosopher, comedian. I'm a concepts guy. And all I can do, brothers and sisters, is look and say, wait a minute. This is the lead into 2022. That if we can make this virus half as scary as coronavirus or Delta, you might be into something. I believe, you know what? When you're getting this big run up about this virus, brothers, have you checked the gas prices? Have you checked the gas prices? The good gas is over $4, brothers and sisters. And now we have the travel prices. Oh, you want to fly? Oh, we got something for you. You're paying the corona tax. Just like, brothers and sisters, 20 years after 9/11, when you pay, if you break down your ticket, you know what you're still paying on your airline ticket, a tax? It's the 9/11 security tax. Why you got me paying the 9/11 security tax? Clearly, the security didn't work on 9/11. Even still, though, let me focus and say these things and get us out of here correctly. Biden was correct. Any illness or potential illness is a concern. Panic is a different type of illness. Panic is an illness that leads to chaos. Panic that leads to chaos leads to bad decisions. And those bad decisions, in a lot of regards, brothers and sisters, are irreparable. You can't change it. Children out of school, if they were out of school for 3-4 months on a virtual program, you can't change that. The teachers who had to change the way they taught, can't change that. The bus drivers who had to take the kids to school, you can't change that. Parents who had to quit their jobs can't change that. People who work fast food, people who drove trucks, people working the banks, economies were ruined, brothers and sisters. So my point, and there is one here, is let's all do it. Let's do our own research. We're not medical doctors or researchers, but let's do our own research. Let's do the forensics on what happened last time we had a Delta variant, the last time COVID came through, and look at the behaviors and be very meticulous in matching up those behaviors with the ones that people are trying to bring out now. The fear, the rush to judgment. I wish I had that article and I could send it out to you, but the woman who talked about in South Africa, the physician in South Africa who recognized this potential issue. She said potential issue. She said, brothers and sisters, that it was mild. That these people who were coming to her, they weren't breathing heavy, falling over on respirators or ventilators. They had headaches. They had aches and pains. They were fatigued. Now, like I said, I'm not a doctor, but there's not going to be a rush to judgment on the fact that, you know what, people get tired. I get tired. I get run down, fatigued. I feel achy. And yes, brothers and sisters, we do have to be diligent because on top of this new variant and the old variant, it's the flu season. Flu don't quit, can't quit, don't quit, can't stop, it will not stop, brothers and sisters. So, in my wrap up, if you will, I'm gonna ask everybody to be diligent and have talks with people in your immediate family, in your communities about recognizing good medical evaluation and good medical advice. Let's be on top of it. Let's find 3 or 4 people in the medical field that can talk about this particular variant just with a little bit of information, what we should be looking for. What are some of the symptoms? What is some of the research? How did it get to this point? Things like that. Brothers and sisters, you'll be amazed when you start finding out that these new things that are popping up, they're not that new. All right, let's go ahead and get a wrap up. Oh, what's going on, Eric? Walaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brother Carter. Thank you for coming on the show. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Thank you for tuning in. We got anybody else, Tana? Oh, again, there was no flu last year, was there? Where were the stats for that? That's a good question, F1. That's a good question. The flu got overshadowed last year because everybody's worried about COVID. That's a great point. So let me go ahead and give my wrap up, Emily. Thank our sponsors. We want to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Go to the website, or you can call brothers and sisters 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-6845. Want to give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. If you're thinking about getting a quality master's or doctorate level education in Islamic studies, Islamic leadership, Islamic education, or trying to get that MDiv with a focus on Muslim chaplaincy, one of the best programs in the country, check them out, bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. And we're going to give a shout out to our new sponsor, Community Convenient Urgent Care out of Houston with 3 locations, Cypress, Pasadena, and Parker Road in Houston. Shout out to Convenient Urgent Care. So, brothers and sisters, that is our show. Please du'as for Brother Johnny Boyd, du'as for Sister Shirley Bethel, du'as for anybody that you have that's ill. In fact, Satana, next time we'll have people just put them on and we can just read them out. I know people have folks that they want to speak out on, and we want to give the sick and shut-ins their respect. People don't understand how hard it is to be sick and to recover. So that's all I got for you guys today. You guys have been a wonderful audience. Start talking about this new variant, brothers and sisters. I bet you if we talk about the new variant, it'll be less fear. And I believe in my heart of hearts, it won't be as severe as people are making it out to be. I'm Preacher Moss. This is the Shout Out Show. I'm out of here. Have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, team, we've come to the end of yet another show. And I have to say I had a good time, and I hope that you had a good time as well. Listen, at this part of the show, we have no more show. I could literally sing a song saying we have no more show. However, to spare all of us that embarrassment and chaos, I'm just going to say, please join us tomorrow here on the Shout Out Show, Monday through Thursdays, and every first Saturday, we do our Saturday Spotlight. Here we are again, 5 to 5:30 on the Central Time. And of course, we're going to do our rebroadcasts at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock p.m. And of course, that would be 6 o'clock on the West Coast. So, time for you to go, because it's time for me to go. I think I will do that song. Thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for coming to the show. That's all the lyrics I wrote. But you get the idea. See you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum. Shout out.